What do you mean, where am I going? I'm 37 years old and I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. What do you mean I need to set goals?
Facts.
That's what she said.
What year is it again?
All of that really is my wife.
Should I leave?
And we're going to roll an intro I haven't made yet, but hopefully it looks good.
Your voice changes when you do that.
Still married, I think.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
We made it 4 episodes in. What is up, guys? My name's Jeff. That is my wife. She does still like me, and her name is Kim. We are My Wife Still Likes Me. Thanks for watching the show today. We are going to continue our thoughts on goals with where are we going, like picking where you want to be when you grow up. Don't ever grow up. Be a Toys R Us kid.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway. Ooh. Uncommon questions.
Oh my gosh.
There's an Amazon link for these down there. We don't get anything from it. We just think the questions are great discussion starters. I'm going to get crap now for not ever letting you pick the question, by the way. Not that I'm like picking them in order. I just picked the first one. When was the last time you felt powerful? I don't have an answer to this either.
That's hard. That's really hard. Probably context. I'm bossy.
Yes, she is. No,
I'm really good at what I do, and I don't.
The chair is stuck in the floor. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to turn like I'm facing this way.
So like there are sometimes I feel powerful at work when I can get things accomplished, but I think I'm pretty independent. So I feel like the most times that I feel powerful is when I can do something within my own strength and I don't need to lean on anybody else, whether it's, hanging something or fixing something. I don't know. I can't think of the last time because we're just coming off a vacation and I'm still feeling pretty good. So like, I'm not thinking about those kind of things.
Right. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm with you. Like, powerful. Like, we're not dictators. Like, we've all had staff and had people work for us. And I don't know. Like, felt powerful. Like, I don't know. Is that like, I'm being all existential now. Does that mean like I made a like big decision that affected a lot of people? Or like I feel powerful every time I get the drill out and I just squeeze the trigger a couple of times. Like, oh.
There it is.
I don't know. Cause like I'm with you. Like I'm not bossy's not the right word, but I'm not like to the extent that you are of like not in a bad way. Like you're very good at your job, but it requires some natural leadership tendencies versus I'm like I listen to leadership podcasts and hope that I can apply even a quarter of some of this stuff and be productive. In a good way. I'm not trying to be like down on myself. I mean, like okay, I'm trying to be better and do things versus some people are just good at them. You are good at them. I have to practice them. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't had that moment yet. I have no idea. Because my daytime job is about helping people be better with themselves, not telling them how to do things.
I think that's a context question, I think.
Yeah, like in the Navy, like...
how would you... I think we can change the question around to name the most recent time that you felt accomplished. I think powerful is the wrong word.
Every Monday when I clean the kitchen, I feel accomplished. Now,
right?
For me... I forget which show it was. We were talking about like, when you think the house is clean, like it doesn't matter what the rest of the house looks like. If the kid, for me, it's the cars. If the cars are clean, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
I do. There's the answer to my question. When I'm driving around in the truck and it's clean inside and outside, or is pulling any trailer, and I have like my hat, my sunglasses on, and like I look like the I can't say that word. I look the part, like that's when I feel powerful, like mostly because the truck's paid for. chances are pretty good the trailer it's pulling is paid for, and we're not bragging. Like, we work really hard. You should too. Goals.
That was like a 5-year goal that we set.
Yeah, though, like, it took us a long time to pay cash for, well, full disclosure, we put some of it on a credit card, but we paid cash and had money set aside to buy a truck that seats 8 so that the 5 of us and the dog can have room.
Yeah.
Or be able to take friends' kids home from church.
Yeah.
I think that was like, sorry. That was a burp that came from down in the middle. I think the happiest moment I had in the truck was the day that we were at church and one of the kids at church's mom couldn't come get them right away.
Oh, yeah.
And so we could, like, hey, just come home with us. Like, didn't even think twice about it. We have 2 extra seats in our truck, even when we're all in it. And, like, this is cool because it's not efficient and it's huge.
Well, I mean, given
it's a Tahoe, FYI. Like,
it's a small SUV.
It is not a small SUV. The Mariner was a small SUV. This could eat the Mariner for lunch and not have leftovers.
Okay, for us ladies, it is a small SUV.
Okay.
Next.
Yes, I'm like, if we go into the context of why we think a Tahoe is a small SUV, we're not going to be a family-friendly show anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's me again.
Right?
Anyway, goals. Where are you going? So last week we talked about you need to sit down and have an honest assessment of where you're at. Like, you need to know you're broke. It sounds horrible and obvious in some cases.
Yeah, but there's different levels of broke. Like, there's the bills are paid broke.
Right?
Or there's we can't make the bills broke. So
I really need you to get TikTok.
Nope. It's a time suck.
It is a time suck. I admit it. But that's where I get most of the ideas for our content too. I found out yesterday, I don't know if I want to admit this, but you can set time limits as an adult on your apps.
Squirrel.
Yeah. That's the premise, like, part of the show. My wife still likes me, even though we're not actually going to get to the topic we're talking about.
Oh,
I
please.
assume that's why people listen to us. Anyway, so last week we talked about you need to be honest about where you're at, and you can't blame your spouse because the reality is where you is. Gosh, you are where you are.
Are we editing that part out?
Nope. That is a commitment we made a long time ago. We don't edit. We cut out, like, last week we had some children issues, so there's a blank space in the middle. But outside of those things, we don't edit. Like, we're start to finish.
Crap. So I have to watch what I say?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's going to be funny and we're going to leave it in there, or it'll make it into the intro.
Oh, jeez.
Like the spot where I clapped and you jumped, totally going in the intro. Anyway, you can't blame your spouse. It is you two against the problem, not you two against each other.
Yeah. And you can't go back.
Yeah. You can't fix it. You can going forward.
I was going to say, you can create new habits moving forward, but you cannot change the past.
So, where are you going is the middle of the series. It's now that we know where we're at, where do you want to go? Take those dreams and make details about them. Because dreams are just dreams until you do something about it. And we'll talk about doing something about it more in the next episode. But it's talking about, what are we talking about? Dreams and goals. So as a couple, if you don't have kids yet, do you want kids? How many? Now, in our case, we wanted a couple and got 3.
Whoa. I wanted 1, maybe 2, and you wanted 5.
And whatever. I was okay with 2. And we got 3.
Yeah.
Whole different story. Twins are 2 for the price of 2, by the way. Don't let anybody tell you they're 2 for the price of 1. Anyway, but all of that stuff, where do you want to live? What kind of house do you want? Like, sit down and identify those things. Because you can't, like, if you're sitting there watching Netflix or you're watching HGTV in the dentist office like we do, and you're like, two people who have zero income because they're both freelancers want a $5 million house on the bay. Like, if that's what you want, you need to identify that. And I don't have my journal with me, but I have a journal that, like, I list out my goals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a bucket list of, like, awesome things I'd like to accomplish. But then I have, like, and we can talk about habits and stuff like that in the next one. But I have the 3 things I'm working on in the next 2 months. But detail them. Like, don't just think, oh, I want to have a house big enough for my family and the American dream, a house and 2.3 kids and a dog. That used to be what it was. I don't know if it's 3 kids or 2 kids now, but
the 0.3 always gets me.
It's, what are those dreams? Like, for me, for the last decade, I guess it's been 12 years now, for 10 years, in my daytime job, I wanted to be a pastor and go through all of those things. So we knew that was the dream. That was a goal. And then for you, when you started in your current line of work, there was a point. This is what I want to be, and I'm over here. And so that was a goal. And in marriage, we need to do the same thing. Like, our relationship today shouldn't be the same tomorrow. It should be better in whatever way that looks like. If it's a financial goal, if you want to go through the Dave Ramsey steps or a modified version of the Dave Ramsey steps, like if you're sitting
or
at
any
home,
other financial advisor,
there are plenty of them. Pick a program. If those are things like, I want to be debt free, or I want to go on a cruise, or whatever, pick those goals. You want to have kids that are respectful and have character. Read a parenting book,
Right. Right. And some of this too is, we'll get into it more in the next episode, but because of Jeff does have some of a business background. He doesn't go into it that much, but he does. And I, obviously, coming from the financial field, have a lot of business background, but like one thing that we do a lot of our planning based off of is SMART goals. You can Google it. It's pretty fantastic.
Simple, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based.
Good job. Be still my heart. My goodness.
Did you really not think I knew what those meant?
I love you. Sometimes I wonder. No, but yeah. And really the biggest thing is, like, to put it in a big concept is, if you're looking to be a billionaire by age 60, like if that's your long-term goal, you're not going to get to that goal if you're, flipping burgers at your local fast food joint.
Sure.
So, is it an achievable goal? Not where you're currently at. So next week we'll go into more of, how do you go from flipping burgers to potentially being a billionaire? We are not billionaires. There's a lot more things that are just out of our grasp, and we're okay with that.
Sure.
But, if you're going to grind it out, what are your steps going to be? But also, I think a step that a lot of people forget to talk about is, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because realistically, along the way to a huge goal like that, you're going to have to make some sort of sacrifice. One of the sacrifices that Jeff and I were not willing to make is how many nights away from home. So given our work schedules and stuff, you want to talk about that?
The rule of 4. And we have a lot of these. You guys will remember 212, which, did I ever tell you what that is? Do you know what 212 is?
I don't remember.
Okay. That's not a bad thing. One of the first or second episodes we ever did was 212, and I will tell you about it after the show because it's funny and you're going to be like, really?
Great.
This might be episode 6. Anyway, rule of 4. We have a bunch of these. We call them rules. They're all number rules because they're easy to remember. But the rule of 4 said that in my line of work, in my daytime job, I'm a pastor. And I spend a lot of time away from the house, doing whatever, church services, blah, blah, blah. So we always said that if my calendar asked me to be away from home more than 4 nights in a week, or more than 3 nights in a row, 2 nights in a row, whatever, that you had complete veto power over anything on the calendar except Sunday.
Yep. And I have used that veto power before.
I have. And that was a whole staff. Like that was an everybody thing. Like that was expected across my whole staff. And so I could text somebody on a Tuesday, and it's a rotating 7 days. So if it's Tuesday and we're looking at next Tuesday and I've gone for 6 days, Kim can pick whatever she wants on the schedule. So I have texted people, said, hey, somebody who understands the rule, I'd be like, hey, you got vetoed today. I'll see you tomorrow. And they'd be like, okay, it's no questions asked. Mm-hmm. The only exception we made was Sunday was a full work day for me. It was a 12 or 15 hour day. And so those are sacrifices that we're talking about when we're setting goals and things. Like we make it a point that date day is a current thing that we have. That's not like, it doesn't matter what my schedule is, date day doesn't move. One exception was I couldn't get off the couch because I was sick. Mm-hmm. Anyway, yeah. But now that you've established, or we have established where we're at and been honest about it. And if you're not broke and you're honest, like, okay, hey, we got a couple grand in a savings account. The house is doing okay. We're on our maintenance. Things we don't ever think about, house maintenance, right? Mm-hmm. What's next? What's the next goal? And Kim gets tired of hearing about it from me, but what's the next best thing? And not necessarily changing jobs, but what's next on the thing is a goal. What's your next goal as a couple? What's your next goal as an individual? And being supportive, and we'll talk about that. Like it's having SMART goals. It's weird that you can apply SMART goals to a relationship, but
right.
Practically, maybe it's bedroom stuff, and we don't need to be detailed, but maybe it's the nuts and bolts. You guys can talk about nuts and bolts on your own. How and where.
Okay, I was like
things we don't need to talk about.
Thank you. I was like,
but don't like. We spend a lot of time talking about finances and stuff like that, but it's all goals. Like, how do you want your kids to be? What do you want your bedroom life to look like? Like your happy time bedroom life. For example, we don't have a TV in our room because that's not what our bedroom's for.
It's very distracting. Our children are also not allowed in our bedroom. Yes. Now that doesn't always happen, but
the exceptions are sick.
The kids have nightmares.
Yeah, whatever. Those things make sense. But for the most part, that's our
safe place.
Sleeping, adult stuff, and study. Like that's our quiet space. Like that's my 500 square feet to be whoever I want to be. The other 1,500 square feet, the children can trash. Case in point behind the camera. Mostly because of how it's set up. But sit down and talk about your goals. Maybe you want to have a space like that. But like not just money, all the goals. Like you want to have a place to study. Maybe you want to have a car that will start every day.
Been there.
Maybe you don't like your job and you want to do a different job, or what's the job, when we were talking about, 10 years of me trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and you asked me, what's the one thing you're passionate about? This is it. So we sat down and said, I want to have a podcast. Now, the podcast has turned into a bazillion other things we will talk about over time. But goals, list them out. Where do you want to be as a couple, as individuals? What are some bucket list things? Maybe you want to go to Hawaii. Maybe you want to go to Horseshoe Bend, and like I want to, whatever. Maybe it's, I would love to drive the Pacific Coast Highway with David. Pick those things, list them out, and the next week we'll talk about how do we get there.
Yeah. And, if you're going to have these goals too, make sure that they're realistic. Now, is it okay to have a pie in the sky, like grandiose dream? Absolutely. But you also need to make sure that you're setting yourself up for what's that contingency plan should you fail? And when's that tap out moment?
Yeah.
Because like I love the billionaire example. I think that's because it's so big that not most people are never going to achieve that. But, if you make it to being, a 2.5 millionaire, is that still going to be okay? Are you still going to be satisfied? Or are you going to be so depressed and down on yourself that you feel like you're a failure if you never hit that billion?
Yeah. And that's part of the attainable.
Yeah.
The A.
Yeah. But I think, and that's why I say Google it, because there's so much with SMART goals that like we could sit and do an entire series on it. But
and that's part of when as we talk through the rest of this one and then the next episode, is some of those things are going to require sacrifice. Like you're a full-time student right now.
Yes.
So we're at the end of everybody's spring break, which has been awesome.
It's great.
Like as we record these all at one time. So you're out of school this week. The kids are out of school this week, and I took this week off so we could all be together. Like we had 3 days without the kids on vacation, but we also spent Monday and Tuesday with the kids. And yesterday.
Yes.
We got home yesterday.
No, we got home on Friday. You were running around.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. But I know, and we all have mentally, and we have talked about this, the next 8 weeks of your next class is the rule of 4 doesn't really apply because we're making a sacrifice for this season to get you through school. And we'll know after a week or two if it's a super overbearing class or if it's going to be a class where we can see you a couple of nights a week. But
yeah. My last set was awful.
We're also moving and selling our house and all of those things in the process, which is all, there are sacrifices to your goals, right? When I first started out on the path to ordination, I was a full-time student.
Yes.
And so there was 2 or 3 or 4 nights a week where our kids weren't in school, but I would get home from work or the kids would get home from school or whatever, and I disappeared for 4 or 5 hours because I had to get school done.
Yep.
We have some lofty personal financial goals going forward and some goals for the show that we know there's going to be sacrifices and there's going to be things that we're going to have to do along the way.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, communicating that to your significant other, because like, that like, I want the dishes out of the sink, and that's just, it's kind of a funny thing, but I also understand that because my last 8 weeks were horrible because these 2 classes they were very difficult classes, just full disclosure. But there was a couple of times that because Jeff had to pick up so much of my slack with the housework and the kids and everything else, that I did not get upset. I think there was like 2 or 3 days out of the last 8 weeks that dishes were just overflowing.
Oh yeah.
And, that's part of a sacrifice, is sometimes your needs may or may not be met how you expect them. And, sometimes you're just going to have to be okay with that because it's a sacrifice for both of you to get to the goal. Yeah. I'm in school. Most of the sacrifice is on me, but when you're setting these goals, you need to understand your spouse, your significant other, is going to be making equal sacrifices. One of our things that we didn't give on is like, we knew how much of a time commitment that school is. So we also made that sacrifice that we were not going to go to school together.
Yeah.
So I did put my schooling on hold until you were done. Mm-hmm. And we were not willing to make that kind of a sacrifice to our family. So, had we had the ability to do school before we had kids, that would have looked different.
Yeah, that would have been a lot different. We couldn't afford school.
This is true. But that's why it's important to know where you're at, but also in step 2, know like what the goals are and what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not willing to sacrifice.
Sure. And that's in my head, your personal goals. I mean, there are things we want to do as a couple. Like, yeah. We have dreams about where we're going to retire and all that stuff. And we've listed out how we want to get there. Yep. But your personal career, those goals are still my goals. Now, I'm not the one going to class and doing all this stuff, but you understand, and our listeners and viewers need to understand that there are things that I still need to do to support your goals.
Absolutely.
And the same thing for me. I have ministry goals and things that I want to do in my job that you are very supportive of. Whether it's, hey, I need 3 nights or 4 nights a week to go and do things that I need to do, or I go to Panera during the summer to write because I can't write in the house because we have 3 children. Mm-hmm. Things like that. Planning our date days and planning our personal time, because like we're not together every second of every day. We know this. I hope you get,
Yeah, no.
There are days I go into our room where our children are allowed with my computer and I write and I just think, like, whatever.
And sidebar, it is okay to kick your significant other out of the house to go do something when they're just so up to their eyeballs in stress that they can't.
Oh, we've talked about this. She sends me out on motorcycle rides all the time.
I literally kick him out and say, you need to unwind. I have the kids, go away.
Throttle therapy.
Yeah. But whatever that looks like for you. For me, it's going to have coffee with friends, or it's weird. I love crafting. Like you could probably see with some of our setup, I like creating things. And so for me, some of my therapy is going to one of the craft stores. I don't even have to buy things. Sometimes it's just wandering around, getting the motor running, if you will, helps me. But it doesn't always have to be cost.
Yes. All right. So, honest assessment of where you're at. Put details to your goals. And in the next one, we'll talk about how to get there. Broadly, how to get there. How you actually get there is going to be up to you and maybe a financial planner or a life coach or whatever.
Or a counselor.
Counselor, yes. Which is the disclaimer. We are not mental health professionals. No. If you need mental health professionals, go find one. Marriage, financial, life coaching, therapists, whatever, go find it.
Parental coach.
Yeah. We are not it. We're trying to take a casual look at real life problems and how we process them. Like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you want to talk about or some direction you think we should head in, and we will give it a shot. My wife still likes me. My wife still likes me.com. Yeah, good.
I'm good.
All right, see ya.
Bye.